Hello? It's Christy Gray, your newest hype girl and astrologer. Welcome to the Cosmic Hotline. Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Hotline. And as promised, we're diving into this week's stars and the full moon that's on the horizon. And you know what? If things have felt a little bit crunchy, there's been some friction in your relationships, or even some frustration in a work project, or maybe there's been some delays, there could be some elements of you reassessing things, as I want you to know that the stars well and truly have something to do with it. Before we dive into our lunar forecast, I wanted to give you some insight because Venus is on her way to square Mars, and any time that these two combine in a square, it's bound to arise to passion and intensity, intimacy and friction and arousal. And like anything, there's always duality. So that could be coming up or showing up for you with frustration in relationships. It could be showing up as passionate sex with your loved one, or it could just be you getting well and truly pissed off with the stars. It all depends on your life circumstances, but there's definitely some words to describe it. The other thing that's been taking place is that we have had, because we have the beautiful sun in Aquarius at the moment, it's getting to the halfway point of being Aquarius season. However, the sun has been squaring, or is about to start really squaring, the planet Uranus, and Uranus rules Aquarius. So there can be potentially a feeling of you wanting to break free, whether it's burning your life to the ground in some capacity, or whether it's making a really radical change. It is, however, important that you don't just think about where you want to go longer term, you also think about what's possible for you right now. And the reason I say that, and I shared this in a previous episode, it really does speak to at the moment of thinking towards the future, thinking about who you want to become and who your higher self is. But like anything related to Aquarius, is you have to keep your feet firmly planted on the ground. And the reason why I wanted to start this week's episode with giving you the insights as to what's happening is because I think this is going to only intensify as we progress towards this full moon in Leo. That being said, I really want you to check in this week, or your astrological invitation is to recognize your thoughts, recognize any patterns that may be holding you back. Think about how you can think differently or choose love, which we're going to dive into in a moment. And the reason why is that Mercury has been encouraging us to think differently. Is there an area of our lives that we're holding ourselves back? And it is coming up to conjunct Pluto, which is going to be a turning point moment to find a more empowered path forward. Now, before I actually give you all the insights as what cosmic connections will be happening at this week's full moon, the full moon will be in Leo on the 6th of February 2023, and it will be at its peak at 4:28 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, what really inspired me with this episode is that this morning I was walking around the house thinking, what's the astrological flavor this week? What do I want to share when I jump on the mic? What's coming up? One of the messages I kept getting was around how do we choose ourselves when we're still a part of a greater whole? Like, I use this term a lot. How do we put on our oxygen mask before assisting others? So knowing that we're worthy of being important and taking care of ourselves, but also knowing that there's a fine line between being selfish and honoring our self-care. Like, where's that sweet spot? And the reason why is because when the sun is in Aquarius, it's tied to humanity. It's tied to how we're a part of a greater whole. Like, how are we going to do something that doesn't just impact our own lives, but impact the lives of others? And that can feel really big. I'm like being really honest there. Whereas the moon, which is all about our emotions, being in Leo, really talks to our passions and what we're inspired by and what are we creatively fueled by and how are we doing things that we love. However, just purely based on where they're placed, the sun in Aquarius is in the first house, which is the house of self. And then the moon in Leo is in the 7th house, which is partnerships, is that there is duality of how you still choose yourself, whether it's in those moments of frustration or whether it's in a family unit when you've got kids or whether you're in a work environment, because you do need to put yourself first. And I'm a big advocate for that, but you also need to prioritize connection. And anyway, an amazing Scorpio queen that I connect with, shout out to you, Stacey, is she was sharing with me this morning is that at the moment, she is choosing love. And as soon as she said that, I was like, holy shit, that is really the topic of conversation for this week's full moon. How do you choose love in those moments with yourself when you are feeling frustrated or you're seeing a repeating pattern? Maybe you made a decision that you regret. Maybe you've done something wrong or perceived challenge that you've been faced with. How do you choose to be kind to yourself when things aren't going to plan or when you've made a mistake? And I think this is such a powerful conversation to have with you. It also got me thinking about too, like I'm single and I connect with so many people that are either married or in long-standing partnerships or maybe people trying to find love. And, relationships is always one of the top 3 topics I explore through an astrological lens. And that got me thinking too about how do you choose love in those moments where you're really pissed off with your partner, or maybe like you're having some learning challenges with a child. As much as you love these people in your life, is not always is things going to be like unfolding harmoniously. So how do you choose to be the better person or the bigger person without compromising on your needs and wants? So as I tend to do, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole with this and I found some really interesting topics, because essentially my Google search it started off with like how to choose love and that just talked about love and relationships, and I was like, no, let's dive into the psychology of this. And so then I Googled hate versus love, because to me, what's the opposite of love? It's hate. And I'm not saying that we hate anyone, but even if you look up love online and some of the words associated with it, it's appreciation, affection, involvement, respect and passion. Like, how do you choose to be in this empowered state when you are feeling like things are beyond your realm of control? Which actually led me to this incredible statement, which I'm going to share with you now, which is this: anger is passionate, it's hot, it's liquid, it's kinetic. If repressed, it gels into hatred, which is cold, hard, and stagnant. Love is shy, but it will turn out to be ubiquitous and abundant once it's safe for it to show its face. So one of the things that I would invite you to explore this week is, how are you putting yourself first before putting others first? In what areas of your life are you holding yourself back? Because Leo is about self-expression. It's about creativity. Leo rules the heart. It's very much associated with the heart chakra. When I talk about anyone that has a lot of Leo in their natal chart or their health house is ruled by Leo, I always talk about circulation, the importance of it, and why they should do more heart opening exercises, like more chest opening and yoga, because it really is about how you give love, but also how you receive love. And what Leo can sometimes tend to do is they crave that connection with the people in their life. They want to adore, and I even go as far to say worship the people in their life, but can get really fucking salty when that isn't reciprocated. And so it's about how do you find the middle ground? And purely because of this square off between the sun and the moon, and guess what's right there, baby? It's the planet Uranus, who causes us a bit of friction anyway, is there is an opportunity to embrace change, which is why I asked you that question. In what areas of your life are you holding yourself back? Or I invite you to explore that question. But I'm going to give you a couple others just to contemplate. What is buried deep within yourself waiting to be expressed? Self-expression can come in many forms. You could be a content creator that takes such joy in how you create content. Is there an opportunity for you to do things differently, be more artistic and creative? It could be in your workplace. Maybe you wanting to speak up on a particular project or with a person, but for whatever reason you've deemed it to be too hard, or you have been avoiding the conversation, which can be a little bit like Aquarius. Let's be honest, it can sometimes be a bit anxious avoidant. Why are you not honoring that? And why are you choosing to hold yourself back? And how can you express yourself so you're not suppressing any of that energy? So my next question for you would be, how can you express yourself today? What can you do? Do you need to have a conversation with a friend? Do you need to pick up a pen and start a conversation with yourself? Is there something that you can share online or at work? Or is there something that you can do with one of your kids? There's so many different ways that you can express yourself. And what I would say is that because Jupiter, the planet of expansion, abundance, and luck, it will be transiting the third house, which represents community and communication. It's also like trining the moon at the moment. Know that you have the stars on your side. So over the next week, in those moments where you might be experiencing uncertainty, maybe you just don't have that like creative flair like you normally do. Or you could experience something that trips you up and it feels like it's slowing you down, a bit of a speed bump. As I'd really encourage you to ask yourself, how can I choose love in this moment? How can I choose to put myself first? And how can I choose a more empowered path forward? Because remembering that love isn't just about romance in a relationship. It also is representative of how much you love yourself and deem yourself worthy of love, whether that's through self-love or romance if you're single. But it's also tied to passion, appreciation, how involved you are, because it's tied to the word involvement and affection, and more importantly, respect. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. And remember, you can either call or text the Cosmic Hotline on 04317 Venus, or slide up on my DMs on the gram and send me a message. I am in the process of collating more episodes for you, which will be answering your questions. So whether you have a question associated with the cosmos, or maybe what's incoming for 2023, or a question specific to your natal chart, please do not be afraid. I love getting my hands on your details in like a not so creepy way. The Cosmic Hotline is all about community and opening up these astrological conversations. So please, please, please send me a message if you're getting that little intuitive nudge to connect with me. I'll be back next week and I have a guest expert episode for you. We've got Jen King, who is the cosmic numerologist, coming back to the podcast, and we unpack a really interesting topic for you on how important your aura is, meaning your aura is sacred. And that involves also who you allow into your energetic space, especially when it comes to working with esoteric practitioners and healers. And oh, babes, I've got some really spicy shit to share with you. Have an amazing week ahead. Enjoy the magnificence of this full moon. Take note of what it's going to illuminate for you. I'll be back next week. But until then, stay cosmic.